good day, beautiful people. Then that shalom, shalom, shalom. Oh, okay. All right, beautiful people. You know, I want to, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So I had to open it. Copy. I had to open it up here. Let's see. I might have to open it from here. All right, beautiful people. Happy Wednesday. It is December 28th, 2022, day 300 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1319. Today, I think I want to read the letter again that Cosmon read last night. I thought it was really, really interesting. Now I'm even more what's the word I'm looking for? Convinced that what we have is not the actual original John Lant from the very first typed edition. I'm almost at 100% that this is the retype, right? So I'm gonna read this to y'all. I thought it was good. Some of y'all heard it last night if y'all was present for his live. That's what I'm trying to pull up now. I gotta open up my messages to pull it up. Nope, not that. Let's change the page. Pages. Yes, here. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to share the link with y'all too. Let me just double check and make sure this. Oh, shoot. Hold on. I think I opened up the wrong link. That's odd. Hold on. Let me try to open it up from here. Tiffany, hey girl, hey. Hold on. Let me just try to open it up from my phones. That's weird. I know it ain't moved. Hold on. Hold on, Tiffany. You know what? This is what I had to do. Hold on, y'all. Let's put that in the trash. I'll restart Facebook because that's weird. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know why it'll open from my phone. All right, let me save this here. Copy link. Put that here so I can open it up the right way. Okay. Now let me open it from here. Boom. Oh, great. Okay. So I got the link. Okay, let me open Facebook back up. I'm sorry. I killed them for a second. Okay, live. Oh shoot. Turn it this way so it record right. Sorry, y'all probably should have had all this together. I definitely should have had all this together. Okay. Let me give them the link. Send. Okay. Come back here and give y'all the link. Boom. There y'all go. Right there. Let me pull it up in here. Let me tell you something. This is why I love Apple. It syncs immediately with all your Apple devices. It sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Well, at least up here I have issues with iPad sometimes, but I can copy something here and it's like, oh man, I was just working up here. I wish I would have opened up that, but Apple didn't figure that out. I can just hit copy up here, copy, set that down, go here, go to where I want, hit paste on my laptop, and it brings it from my iPad, right? It's all Apple products do that. They sync together if you didn't know. Y'all probably do, but it's pretty cool friggin' thing about Apple that I love, right? I'm an Apple head any day over Android. I used to be team Android all day, but then I got a little taste of that Apple. And it's like I've been hooked ever since. But it does that with the phone, to the laptop, to the iPad. Jeremiah, was that you? What? You said what? What you need? I swear for Bob. I told them, don't use your help me voice like something really wrong. And my heart about to pop out my chest. Okay. It's not an emergency. Don't use your emergency voice. Hold on, y'all. Oh, hold on. Let me get a sip of water. It flex my nerves with that. Okay. All right, y'all. Okay. All right, I got the link up. Got the link up. We got this. What I didn't do was print out the Lord's third book. So I'm going to just read it from here. Let's start the right way. Father, we thank you. First of all, I need to better understand the voice calls of my children, whether it's an emergency or not an emergency. But thank you for, I don't know. First of all, just thank you for children, because they are a blessing. They really are. Sometimes they scare the crap out of me, right? Okay. Um, but also, Father, we ask you that you continue to be with us daily as we walk, not just as we search for things, but as we grow personally. Give us the courage. Give us the courage and the fortitude to keep going, even if we get something wrong, right? Not to be full of pride, neither beat ourselves up because we perceive we made a misstep. But thank you for continual growth. Thank you even for the stumbling blocks that we come across, to open our eyes just a little bit wider, to let us know where we're going and how we need to adjust. Thank you for teachable spirits, for pliable spirits, for spirits that would even just listen, because we might not always have it right. And with that being said, listen, I was watching Sinetta, his his thing with Naphtali. Boy, that was hard to watch. Not that it was hard. I really do like Naphtali, right? I really do. I really do. I really do. She has a lot of she has a lot of oomph about her, right? There's not I don't agree with her on everything. I really don't. But sometimes it's really good. Even here's what I learned. Here's what I learned like the hard way, by being embarrassed. I don't like being at a point where I'm embarrassed. And not embarrassed because like I was really ignorant. I mean, no, maybe that's not the word. Um I don't even know how to put that. Um I would say embarrassed because I got a big head, but I was still just as ignorant as all get out because I thought I was right. Right. I remember them days. Like it was really hard to watch. I learned a lot by watching that. Um, but what I can say, what I'll give it to her. I would say she's right based on everything that you're indoctrinated with. Like if this was a question on who was best indoctrinated, then she had it hands down, right? Hands down, like she got that. But even some of the stuff, listen, here's what was, and this is not to bash her at all. Not at all, but I really learned something about why it was like 4 hours, and I didn't even get through all of it at about not even 30 minutes in. I was like, I ain't even gonna be able to get through this. I ain't gonna be able to get through it because it was I felt embarrassed, not really for her, but because I used to do that. I was like embarrassed for me, thinking about, especially during my active duty days. And some people who would come to me and they would try to like, because it was some real conscious people on the Roosevelt, the ship that I was on, right? And I just happened to be in a division with a lot of them, and most of them were dudes, right? Being on the aircraft carrier is mostly men anyway. When I joined, women were just being allowed on the ship. So when I actually got stationed on the ship, in my berthing, it was only like 10 women on that ship, and the ship holds 5,000 men. I mean, well, 5,000 people, but within each division on a ship, you probably had about 5 women per division, right? So with, let's say if you had like 10 divisions, there would be 50 women, and the was that 10 times 5? Yeah. There would be 50 women out of all the ship's crew. The rest would be men, right? So that's how it was when I was active duty on the Roosevelt. But they was some, it was some really conscious dudes, like spiritually conscious and aware, like running into people from different parts of the world who were like not just not just talking like pro black or anything, but really their spiritual levels were higher than some of what I had ever seen, right? And so me being this little Christian girl, right? And like y'all, I studied my Bible. Like here's what Sonetta, I say Sonetta was setting her up. I saw it a mile away with the scriptures he had her reading because I'm so not I didn't only just read the New Testament. And that's something I saw last night. She really spends a lot of her time. I could be wrong, but based on the questions Sonetta, the scriptures Sonetta was having her to pull out, well, he was pulling them out. He had her read them out loud while he was doing it. I saw exactly every time how he was setting her up and what he was going to ask her. But when he was pulling them from the Old Testament, that should be easy for you to see. Like that's an easy chess move, setting you up to ask you this particular question. I was like, oh, and I'm just walking through the house. I had it playing in my ear, doing lines. Just like, oh, I know exactly what I know. What he about to ask her. I know she see what he about to ask. She need to start formulating her answer now. And it was like she didn't catch. It was like she wasn't catching on to it because she had to wait a minute. Let me read it in context. And nothing is wrong with that, right? But I could tell just by her doing that, she don't really read the Old Testament for real, right? Um, she doesn't, and that's understandable because I used to be at that point where she was at because it was like, okay, oh, I was kind of like that was a phase, right? So you got Hebrews that are some are like full New Testament. Then you have the other ones that's like the shenanigans of Christ. So we burn in the New Testament, we go on the Torah only. Like I went through all those phases till I became Torah only. And when I became Torah only, I constantly read the Old Testament over and over and over, just like I was doing the whole Bible. I was reading through the whole Bible every 90 days. I cut out the New Testament and I just did Torah, and I did that for a few years. So I got really familiar with the scriptures in the New Testament and where to reference the map. Like I can still tell you most of it. I may not be able to pinpoint, but when you start talking, I know, and I know exactly what you're talking about, right? I know all of the stories. And so I saw how he was setting it up, and I was like, she didn't catch on to that. She didn't catch on to that, and it was amazing. It was interesting to me and amazing because it told me a lot about how she studied just by watching this with Sinetta. Like I said, it's no disrespect to her whatsoever, but just by doing that and seeing some things that kind of I ain't gonna say it caught her off guard because she would say it didn't catch her off guard because she clearly had an answer for everything, and I'm just like, whew, sheesh, you know. But I learned really early by kind of being put in that situation um, some years ago while I was still like fully full blown Christian, right? Um, it's even if you do know it all, right? I found out that it's better, even if you do know it all, even if you think you know it all, it's better not to act like that because 9 times, I would say 10 times out of 10, you don't know it all and you really begin to look foolish. And if you don't catch yourself, you really begin to believe your own hype. And it's like there's no waking you up, at least not at that point, because you're too high on yourself and your knowledge and what you think you know. And now you begin to sound condescending. And I'm just like, oh man. And like I said, I wasn't embarrassed for her for real. I was really embarrassed for me because as I watched that, I saw in her, I ain't gonna say some, a lot of the stuff that I used to do. And it was like that whole frame of mind carried over into my business. And even my husband would say, you just think you know everything, don't you? I was like, and do, right? But listen, it's gonna take, well, at least it took for me, it's gonna take you to get it's gonna listen, it's gonna take you to have an off day from your big headedness. And it's going to take the right person on that right day that don't know you off on your big headedness to approach you with something and throw you off your game. You're going to like be real embarrassed. And then you're going to begin to really think about what it is you've been doing and how you've been sounding. I'm not saying that's her, but I'm just saying by watching that, I saw a lot of what I used to do, right? And it's okay. It's really okay to say that you don't know everything. Like if you don't know something, it's okay. Like I thought at a couple times she should have been like, you know what, Sonetta, I'm not even really familiar with that passage. Let me just read it instead of let me keep it in context. I'm like, by this time I had already picked up. You're really not familiar with the Torah text for real. At least not how I thought she was, simply with the questions and how he was setting her up. Because if she picked that up, at least I'll say, if that was me, I would have picked that up and I would have asked him instead of just read. I'm like, I see where you're going. You about to ask me your question. Yep, I can't fool you, Pam. You know, I would have picked that. Those were easy pickups, but it seemed like that wasn't picked up on. And it was like there were, even when there were clearly contradictions, even even if it wasn't just contradiction, even if it wasn't like a spiritual contradiction, let's just say it was, it wasn't a contradiction, it was just a contradiction of the words that were used because of man, because man makes mistakes. And clearly, according to the definition that was read, this contradicts with this, right? Even if it was just for the sake of words, there were word contradictions, but sis had an answer for everything. Like, no, let me explain to you what this meant. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Somebody who was at Kendrick, you said the God spell is real. It is. It was, when I say that was hard, like I said, there was no disrespect to her, because like I said, according to how she's been indoctrinated, and I can see read like they start off indoctrinating you, but how you study and what you choose to believe, you actually reinforce your own indoctrination. And I'm just like, oh, oof. And I didn't finish it. It's 4 hours long. Um, I watched about a little bit over an hour, maybe like an hour and 20 minutes. I'm gonna finish it though. I had to break up the monotony. I was like, I'm gonna have to watch this in phases, you know. But yeah, if you didn't have a chance to watch that, simply like I said, don't watch it, like not to come down on a sister or anything or whatever, because we all still growing. Um, but just it's really interesting to watch that, right? At least I thought it was for me. So I think that's the last video that Sonetta put up there. But when I looked at it yesterday, I wasn't able to see the live chat, and I could just imagine what was going on in the live chat, why that was, why that whole thing was going on. Even while you should have seen Sonetta's face. He was just like, he was blown away at even her responses. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, you gotta, like, how did you come? Y'all gotta watch to see what I'm talking about. I'm done with it. But anyway, let me say hey to everybody. Like I said, there was no disrespect to the sister at all, but the God spell is that it is powerful, and you don't really see it until you actually until you really wake up. It's strong. The Nat, Shalom, Kendra, Shalom, Sis Ema, Grand Rising, Elijah, Grand Rising, fam, Nazarene, the Scene, Grand Rising, Hannah, Shalom, our girl, Shalom, Shayla G, hey cousin, that's Wabu, Bonjour, Shalom. Prince, Shalom, Shalom. Hold on, I think I missed somebody. Tony, Great House, Selah, peace, brother, and everybody else hanging out in the background in both places. Top of the day to you. Right. So you watched it. You watched the Kendra. You watched some of it. Yeah, I had to absolutely agree with Sonetta when he told her. He was like, listen, it's okay to say you don't know something, but it I don't know. I'm gonna stop talking about it. But I'm gonna say, watching that, I learned a lot about myself, and how I used to be and the ignorance that I would actually spew out of my mouth. Like it would infuriate my husband. Like I said, look, um, I think I shared this one story with y'all. And it was I had that same type of attitude, right? Listen, when I owned my going postal store, it's like a little like UPS store. It's a franchise uh postal store, right? But it has post office USPS. They had shipments from for international DHL, they had FedEx and UPS, right? And so that's what it was, a shipping and packing store. But in there, had little, one-off services like you can get when you go into FedEx. Like you can come in there to fax something. This was before online fax were really a thing. So I bought that in 2011. So in 2011, this happened in 2011, right? So we was in there. Look, I had just got the store and going there with the big head and stuff, like, yeah, this is my store. We done just acquired this, just still real young and foolish. And so it was a good customer base. It was in uh um I don't want to say real affluent, but it was in a nice part in this little community or whatever, where it was building up this community where people live. Like everything was there. They had an AMP. I was so snooty. You wouldn't be able to figure that out and look at me now and be like, no, no, Sister Pam, not you. Yes. Look, I was shy and I was snooty. I turned my nose up at you, right? Look, so he came in there with, I guess, one of his coworkers, and they came in and they sent a fax, all right? It's $1 to send a fax. And so as he was leaving out the store, went in, he got the paper, all that stuff. We sent the fax. Um, as he was leaving out the store, he said, "Quick question." He said, "Listen," he said, "if they don't receive the fax," he said, "would you guys refax it?" I said, "Don't worry about it. They're gonna receive it." He said, I know." He said, "But what I want to know, if something happens and it doesn't go through for some reason, because this was a business fax that he had to get off right now." I'm thinking about all of this. They come in, they, work clothes and stuff. I want to say they work down here at the base. Or what, he was maybe one of the contractors for the base or whatever. And he said, "I know." He said, "But if it doesn't," he said, "would you guys be willing to resend it for no cost?" Right? Remember, it's only $1. What am I losing with $1? Right? I'm not losing anything, right? And I said, instead of just saying, "Oh yeah, no, don't worry about it, we'll resend it through," right? Instead of me just saying that, I said, "I know the fax is going to go through." Then at that point, someone should have told me, like, "Pam, just pay attention to what the man said. Just tell him, yes, you will resend it if something happened. Like we could have a power outage or something," right? He said, "But if something happens, would you resend it?" I said, "Nothing's going to happen. Your fax is going to go through." Like I knew we weren't going to have a power outage. Somebody won't go come in there and do something, or maybe it was out on the other end where they didn't receive it. They call me like, "Hey, yo, we didn't get," like I knew, like I had control over all these things, and there weren't going to be any kind of any kind of thing that was going to stop it. All the man simply wanted to know was, if there was a hiccup, would I be willing to resend it for free? I should have just said yes. I should have just said yes. Because about a fourth time when he asked me, he just cut me off when he knew I was about to say the same stuff. He said, "You know what? I asked you a simple question. All you had to do was say yes or no." He said, "You know what? You've just lost a customer." And I looked at him like, "So what? We'll need your dollar anyway." So I'm sure not only did I lose him as a customer, I lost not only his friend that was a customer, because I noticed on my facial expression when he said that, but they probably would have went and told everybody that they knew, right? And I could tell that they were local contractors. So if you come back, if you leave the office for something and you have a run in and some type of shenanigan, especially you got friends in the office, you might, you know what? Y'all ever go down here to this store, right? I would have told the story when I got back to the office, you know, not realizing, me thinking I know it all. It just, my whole attitude, like it really affected me, even though I didn't see it right then. But my attitude like that really began to affect the bottom line of that store. That was where I learned a lot about myself and this whole prideful issue that I had. Like, and I seen that like radiating um coming from this thing that I was watching last night. And it was when I like I said, when I say it's painful to watch, not painful really to watch her, but to watch that and to see that in myself and just to walk through some of these instances in my life where I had that same type of attitude. And it's like nothing can get in. It's like you already know everything. Your cup is already full. You can't be taught anything else because you know it all, right? And people don't like to deal with know-it-alls that they just got something for everything. I'm at the point now that even if I even if I think I know more than you, I'm gonna still listen to you, right? But like, okay, yeah, tell me about that. Like I could know all the deets on it, in and out, but I've learned now just to kind of let people talk because I realize I don't know everything, and they may have one tiny thing that I overlook that I might need, and just let them talk because you can learn something from everybody, even if you think that you know more than them. Just like my kids, clearly I know way more than them. But in their innocent act of just being children, I learned so much just by watching them and just sometimes just letting them talk, have a conversation when they want to come talk to you, right? Even if it's just, whew, guys, don't don't be a know-it-all. Don't be a know-it. I know I just spent 30 minutes saying that, but that is, who that'll cause you to lose friendships, valuable friendships. If you're in business, it could literally be the death of your business, right? Because you it's like you don't have any room for anybody to help you, right? It's like you just one man, one woman show for real, and everybody just gonna kind of back away, like you got this, you got this. And it kind of became like that, and then it everything really began to get rocky, so even if you think you know it all, just don't act like that. Act like you don't. Act like you don't. Act like whoever you think you acting like you know it all to or about, act like you don't. And act like they may actually have some hidden secret information that they're going to share with you. So just shh, sip it. Learn to listen. Like that's that's all I'm gonna say about that. Okay, look, pass me the croissants and a great poupon. Yo, Ray, shalom, shalom, animalistic nature, peace, Ali, shalom, shalom, Tabitha. Hold on. Tabitha said, Pammy, men of your stories are also men of our stories. This is the reason we enjoy being on your platform. Yeah, well, I thank y'all for being here. Look, this is a place where I can come in. Well, I don't just confess my sin to the brethren here, but like me and my husband, like, whew, early part of our marriage, it's like really rocky because I had that whole type thing going on, right? It was too much. Now that I step back, I'm like, it's clearly the grace of the creator that we've lasted this long because I don't know that I would have dealt with me. And I'm sure my husband think the same way about his younger days and stuff. And I don't know that I would have dealt with me. It's just guys, it's scary, it's crazy, it's a lot of everything. She's a peach. Jamia Shalom says shalom, shalom. Look, okay. All right, so let's do this. Oh, I saw your comment. Okay, look, so let's read this real quick. This what is hold on. Didn't I just open this up? Okay, let's try it again. I don't know what my iPad doing. Okay. I had to hit something because it keep popping back to this one page and taking it off the letter. Okay. So did I put the link in here? I don't remember if I put the link in here on YouTube. I think I did. I know I put it on Facebook. Did I put it here? Yeah, I did. Okay. All right. So listen. It's called and this is a letter, like I said, if you weren't here earlier, this is the letter that Cosmo read last night on his live platform Like if y'all not subscribed to him, go to the brother's channel. He be dropping some jewels and stuff. He be going in. But he read this. I want to reread it because after he read this, I was like, you know what? I'm convinced that what we have is not the real John Lant plates or the original manuscript that John Lant had that he reproduced on his plates. I'm like, I'm like at 100% almost certain that this was a retyping now. Okay. So this is Origin and History of Oahspe, written by Jim Denon. And the date on this is January 13th, 2010. Well, that's the date for the people who posted this on the website, but this letter is actually dated. It says Cosmon Voice 111, February to March 1990 by Jim Denon. Uncle JB, shalom, shalom. Okay. Most of us want the truth and facts, whatever they are, and appreciate their publication. From my Oahspe and Shalam history, according to those who were there, 1985, this chronology reveals details about the subject of Lloyd Kinder's open letter in the American Faithist Journal, September-October 1989, and the old trunk end quote, article by Anon in the English Cosmon Unity, was that on AUNE 1989. So that trunk that people been talking about that I mentioned here, apparently this is said trunk that it's talking about. John Ballou Newbrough was born near Mohicanville, Ohio on June 5th, 1828 to William Newbrough and Elizabeth Posley, who were Universalists. Maybe that's John. Maybe that's a typo. John. Yeah, that's definitely a typo. It's AOHAN''S. That's John. John's middle name was after the Universalist minister Jose Ballou. When he was 16 in 1844, John began working his way through Cleveland Medical College as a dental assistant to Dr. F.S. Slauson. In 1848, when gold was discovered in California, he decided to go. He and his Scotsman gold field partner, John Turnbull, were successful in California and afterward mined gold in Australia also. So boom, when he mentioned Australia, remember when we was reading through this the other day and I had asked, because it mentioned Australia, and it was talking about the people that had been seen in Australia, and I think it's Africa and Australia. I don't remember exactly which chapter. But anyway, y'all remember when I asked y'all that, and Bronze Yogi said, well, he knew he went to India. But when he said Australia last night, I was like, oh, I didn't realize he had actually set foot in Australia. So that could have been his second retyping of this with that footnote. So it's possible that he could have put that footnote in there, referring to all the people that he saw in Australia. I thought that was interesting. Okay. He and his Scotsman gold field partner, John Turnbull, were successful in California and afterward mined gold in Australia also. Dr. Newbrough was a writer, poet, and author during 3 decades before publishing Oahspe. His first novel was a 600-page book about his experiences in the California gold rush, The Lady for the West, or The Gold Seekers, printed at Cincinnati, Ohio in 1855, a love story during the adventure. That was also the year he graduated from the Ohio College of Dental Surgery in Cincinnati. He next authored a book of poetry, Woman's Will versus Man's Wish, at New York City, 1859. Newbrough disapproved of women wearing makeup, wearing pants, or men's clothing, doing men's work, voting, or participating in politics. Dr. Newbrough married Rachel Turnbull, sister of his gold field partner, on February 24th, 1860, in the Presbyterian Church at Jedburgh, Scotland. The Newbroughs settled at 128 West 34th Street in New York City, where Dr. Newbrough practiced dentistry for 20 years. They had 3 children. One died in infancy. Their son, William, was a civil engineer, and their daughter was an artist. In 1865, Dr. Newbrough published a catechism on human teeth for his patients to read in his waiting room. He devoted several pages about his use of nitrous oxide gas. The patient inhaled a bag of 6 gallons in 2 or 3 minutes, while Dr. Newbrough extracted up to 15 teeth. How do you do that in one sitting, my G? Like, I think the most of them, I don't know. I ain't really had to have more than, even when I had my wisdom teeth pulled, they did that in 2 sessions in the military. Like, who gonna sit there for that? I mean, I guess if you're going to get, I don't know. Some people had that major dental work done. I don't know, but geez, it Pete's 15 at one time. You probably should have had 10 bags of nitrous oxide gas. Okay, let me keep reading. I missed that part when he read that last night. The patient inhaled a bag of 6 gallons in 2 to 3 minutes, while Dr. Newbrough extracted up to 15 teeth. Other dentists had lost 2 or 3 patients using gas, which on page 14 he attributed to, quote, poisonous breath left in the bag from other folks. I miss when Cosmo said this, he read this part. I'm like, bruh, like he make excuses, right? He make excuses for himself. Listen. All right, hold on. Other dentists had lost 2 or 3 patients using gas, which on page 14 he attributed to, quote, poisonous breath left in the bag from other folks, end quote. In 1867, J.B. Newbrough completed his second novel, The Fall of Fort Sumter, Love and War in 1860 to 61, published by Frederick A. Bradley, New York, based on events between the Republican National Convention in May 1860 and Lincoln's call for 75,000 troops in April 1861. Criticized in the novel is a woman who advocates equal political and sexual rights and lives with a man but retains her surname. On March 20th, 1872, one of Newbrough's dental patients, Mrs. Shaughnessy, died from suffocation after he gave her nitrous oxide gas. Subsequently, Newbrough consulted mediums, recording answers to his questions and spiritualists or spirits interviewed in 1874. Dr. Newbrough was a 33rd degree Mason and an avid student of the world's religions. He was particularly fond of the 2-volume, 20-year work on the origin of religions and languages, Anacalypsis by Godfrey Higgins, 1836, and made many notes in the margins. Dr. Newbrough went on a vegetarian diet and he thought, Dr. Newbrough went on a vegetarian diet he thought necessary for contacting spirits on higher planes for a more comprehensive book. And he became interested with others in helping the 7,000 orphans dying annually in the streets of New York City. The new manuscript was ready in 1881. Dr. Newbrough commissioned John A. Lant, a printer at 207 to 209 West 41st Street in New York City. Now, after my research on John Lant, the correct address for John Lant would be 207 West 41st Street. That 209, you can move away because if you look on Google Maps, it'll give you the location where it would have been. And when you pull that up, it's stairs where you can go down. It looks like down into a subway in New York. It's like right there in the middle of Times Square. I've never been down there, but I got a good visual of what it looks like now versus to what it looked like back then. And I was trying to see if I could pull it up then, but upon some further research and details that I pulled up, not only did I get the right address, but I know his wife's name. I know his 3 children's name. He had 2 sons and a daughter. I know his home address, right? I know one of his sons died. George died. Like when I say I got all the deets on him, I got all the deets on him, and I haven't shared them yet because I want to share it once I make phone contact with one of the grandchildren, right? So when I say I got all the deets, I got all the deets. I ain't gonna say, look, we just talked about it. I ain't gonna say all the deets because I still haven't actually talked to them on the phone yet, right? So I'm calling around just the different numbers and stuff, and the different people that I realized that were linked to them, calling around because I think Jamil mentioned that somebody said that when he left, the manuscript he actually gave to his brother, right? So what I'm doing now is looking into his brother, right? So I'm still looking at him, but I'm looking into his brother as well and following where he's going and who's alive, like who I need to contact that's still alive today, right? Because that's only like 2 generations, right? That would literally, like, if my grandmother just passed, but if my grandmother's um mother was still alive, like my great grandmother would have been alive when they were alive, right? So this is really just 2 generations. So once I got onto it and I got on the trail, I was like, oh yo, right? I'm like, I'm getting everybody. So I'm gonna share it with y'all. Like I said, I wanna make a couple phone contacts first just to verify. And when I do, then I'll share that bit in a group first, and let everybody go through it. And then, any other things, and I share the phone conversation, whatever. Like, okay. Dr. Newbro commissioned John A. Lant, a printer, and let's just put the right address, 207. You can move away at 209. At 207 West 41st Street in New York City. Lant made ink proof pages, over 500 pages that he had typeset for Dr. Newbro, which he saved away. Mom, shalom, shalom. Oh, Jamil said there was a woman named Virginia that was from Australia that the U of K spoke about. Hold on, that the U of K spoke about. She was a very involved faithist. Whoever put that footnote in definitely had ties to Australia, right? So when I was reading this, I didn't think that it possibly could have been him, because at that time my understanding was that he had only been to India, right? But clearly he's been to Australia. So it could have been him that retyped this second typing, right? If the first one actually got destroyed. Okay. Let me just go back. Dr. Newbro commissioned John A. Lant, a printer at 207 West 41st Street in New York City. Lant made inked proof pages, over 500 pages that he had typeset for Dr. Newbro, which he saved away. Dr. Newbro informed Lant that after writing nearly a whole work of Oahspe, he destroyed it and began over again. Therefore, John Lant's Oahspe plates were never used. About 80 of the proof pages survived the known About 80 of the proof pages survived known. Oh, about 80 of the proof pages survived, known as the Book of Knowledge. All earlier. Looked like they was trying to write something but didn't quite finish their thought and just kind of, oh no. Okay, that comma should be a period. And those are just I think those are 2 words put together that should be on this next sentence, like an earlier version of the book of Ben and Oahspe. I think that's what it says, but it break it up and the punctuation is wrong. Okay. A few other Lant pages exist, some of Safa and one of Sathantes. An associate of Dr. Newbro's, Waiter Lockwood, helped edit the 1882 Oahspe, which differed from the 1881 Lant pages version. Afterward, Lockwood received some money towards starting a faithist orphanage at Anaheim, California. In September 1882, the already edited version of Oahspe was printed privately by the Oahspe Publishing Association, a print shop financed in part by the temperance author Elizabeth Thompson, whose books were also printed there. His January 27, 1883 letter explaining how he wrote Oahspe on his typewriter during 52 weeks in 1881 appeared in both the American Banner of Light and the English Medium and Daybreak, March 2nd, 1883, spiritualist journals. Dr. Newbro said he received $11,000 from several anonymous donors, plus an additional $3,000 from friends to publish Oahspe. In the fall of 1882, In spring of 1883, Dr. Newbro organized the Oahspe Lodge of Faithists in New York City to promote the Shalam orphanage plan. His associate and assistant was Miss Frances Vanwater, whom he called Sister Frank. Dr. Newbro rented an upper flat with 6 rooms for Mrs. Vanwater, where they took in 6 orphans, but 2 died. Dr. Newbro sent copies of Oahspe to the editors of the Banner for Light in Boston and the Medium and Daybreak in London. James Burns, editor of the Medium and Daybreak, announced Oahspe to his readers on December 1st, 1882, and for a few years advertised and sold the 1882 edition of Oahspe in England, plus published portions of Oahspe articles about it and letters from Oahspe readers. Did you hear from Elijah this morning? He must gonna go straight to the job site from wherever he at. He might already be at the warehouse.
Gas money in my pocket.
What you say? That sound like gas money out your pocket?
Mm-hmm. I'll go ahead and just take the truck. I'm okay with criminal in that truck because I have now understood the struggles of gas money nowadays. And I really don't like it.
Oh, now you know. I hope you be making your cousins pay up or put something.
Oh no, I'm gonna start.
Put something on. Listen, you
like,
got no
if
gas
y'all
money.
Ride, I need 10 each.
You don't get a ride
right now.
Right. Give it to me before you get in.
No, yeah.
So I'm now understand the struggles of gas money.
So I might go to that again and ask him about DoorDash because DoorDash just no. Today I'm going to the Suffolk YMCA. I'm gonna go work out with the group, Charles, Lou, and Steve. Got back working out with them because I think I've hit my peak when it came to like this size of strength.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to bulk up.
Get with some experts that know how to go higher.
Yeah, so think of the size of a person as the potential strength you can get in that size.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I kind of hit a plateau with this size.
Mm-hmm.
So now all I gotta do is like technique with this size. Other than that, strength-wise, I'm already OD strong in this. So let's go ahead and raise the potential, get bigger, bigger muscles and everything, so I can be even stronger.
Okay. Ain't nothing wrong with a mass and strength.
They were telling me about the Olympic, going down the Olympic route stuff. They said you can get in right now. If you go ask Lou and he actually cuts you up, bro, you're gonna be shredded. Add all that, you can get in and not even probably more than likely make first place.
I'll do it. What else you gonna do? You're young, go for it. You got the potential, you can do it. You probably will. You will pull first place. I don't have any doubt about that whatsoever, Jeremiah. Go for it. All right, y'all. But it's 7:15. Y'all need to be at the warehouse at 7:30. So
if you ever look at somebody named Seabone, he's an Olympic bodybuilder, classic Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
He is one of the people that's actually got me into working out. Okay. But at the same time, I wanted to go down that route, but I thought about it. They're not natural, and some of them take steroids. And I think I take steroids, but it can't get to that point.
It shouldn't get to that point.
I mean, to get to the size they're at, it's like...
Okay, you need to think about what you're going to do with your size and why you need to get that big. Like, because they're getting freakishly big. Like, why? And they...
Oh, no, not like how it was. Like, this is... They're getting big, but it still matches their body proportions. Yeah, not like OD.
Do it naturally, son.
I'll try, but naturally, you can't get that size.
Okay, so before you make a choice on doing that, you should probably look into bodybuilders that choose to take steroids. Look at some of them as they get older, some of the complaints that they're having with their body and some of the things that they wish they would have known before they started doing it, right? Look into that first before you make a choice.
Schwarzenegger is the perfect example. He used to be on that type of stuff. Look at his body now.
Yeah, I'm just saying, just see it all the way to the end before you make that decision, right? Try and stay as natural as possible. But hurry up. Hurry up so I can finish reading this.
My bad.
Oh, Jamil said it's actually very dangerous to get that big. They die very early and suddenly, right? Because the heart can't take all that.
Yes. Because,
Overloading the veins.
yeah, she's actually right about that. Because it's like now, even with sebum, it's like it's to a point now. It's interferes with your health and your duration, the time of the earth. And that's what I thought about it. I said, if I do this, I'm probably gonna do this.
Hold on, y'all. He getting his ice. It's super loud while he messing with the ice. Great spirit, shalom, shalom.
I'll probably do like try to get Mr. Olympia probably twice, but me going because he's like 5-time champion, Mr. Olympia in a row.
Mm-hmm.
He is in a
yeah. We can finish this conversation later.
Keys, where did they go?
All right, y'all. I had to lock myself out.
All right.
Okay.
Love you, Mama.
All right. Love you too.
Love you guys. Even though I don't know most of you, love everywhere.
Jeremiah said, "Love you guys." Even though I don't most of you, love you anyway. All right. Okay. Yeah, that's what I said. I don't think he really will, but I don't know. He's pretty. He's like natural, holistic, like me, I don't think he will, but when you start, he's working out with a group of older men who actually done some Olympic things, and they're not encouraging him. They're just saying that that's your own choice you make. But yeah, keep it all natural. So I think he'll make the right decision. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, I think it's right here. Sent copies. He already left out. Okay. Oh, you know what? That the Angelique Shalom says that your comment, it was from earlier, but I don't know why it's just coming through. That's weird. Facebook be doing its own thing sometime. Okay. Dr. Newbro sent copies of Oahspe to the editors of Banner for Light in Boston and the Medium and Daybreak in London. James Burns, editor of the Medium and Daybreak, announced Oahspe to his readers on December the 1st, 1882, and for a few years advertised and sold the 1882 edition of Oahspe in England, plus published portions of Oahspe articles about it and letters from Oahspe readers. One of the readers and letter writers was James Watson Jr. of Glasgow, Scotland, who penned Newbro's venture at Shalam, Donna Ana, New Mexico in 1884. Some years afterward, he married the Shalam school teacher, Nellie Jones. Now, all these letters and the journals and articles that was written during this time, New Mexico has a lot of them. And they have some of them are available online if you go to their website. But it's some also in different files and boxes that they haven't posted yet. And some of that stuff that I originally had on the list, I removed it because I'm like, okay. But now I see that some of these letters and articles could be really insightful. Like I kept the interviews, right, of some of the people, but now I may, at least before I go in there and purchase anything, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna read the ones that are available online and just kind of look for different clues. But still, I don't think we're going to get more than what we already got here. Like I said, it's just kind of like the regurgitation of these things right here, right? And it's still not going to, I don't believe it's going to get us any closer to like the original of what John Lant actually had from the original plays, right? So that's kind of like my gut feeling on that. Okay. England. Okay. One of the readers and letter writers was James Watson Jr. of Glasgow, Scotland, who penned Newbro's venture at Shalam, Donna Ana, New Mexico in 1884. Some years afterward, he married the Shalam school teacher, Nellie Jones. A prospectus entitled A Sketch of the Faithists was printed in 1883, which included the Book of Zimmers, not in Oahspe. It publicized the Convention of Faithists held in New York on November 24th, 25th, 20 and 26th in 1883, the minutes of which were published in the 1884 Gospels of Oahspe, in which the Book of Discipline first appeared, and a number of publishers' notes and footnotes not in Oahspe. Dr. Newbro fathered a daughter, Justine, born January 1st, 1884, to Mrs. Van Water, then using the name Mrs. Sweet, and named her daughter Edith Sweet for a time. On April 14th, 1884, Newbro's wife ordered him to leave their house at 128 West 34th Street in New York City. Newbro and Frances Van Water Sweet moved to a farm at Pearl River, New York, which by March 1990 they named Camp Horrid, the staging place for founding Shalam as outlined in Oahspe. Newbro wrote an additional manuscript, The Government and Bylaws of Faithist Fraternities, which accommodated his marital status for entering Shalam. Listen, when I saw this, right, the more that I dig into this, the more I realize that John Newbro, he wasn't always as I'm not gonna say he was a liar and he was manipulating the system, but in some instances he would turn things for his benefit, right? Because what we read in Oahspe, it talks about like being remarried and stuff. But because he had got remarried, according to the outline of Oahspe that he had, it would have disqualified him. So he thought up this thing that he could requalify his own self to doing it. So it's a lot of little things like that that I saw happening, going on along the way. Some of these I forget who published the article. I think Selah published the article in a group. Um, it was like a lot of lawsuits going back and forth, and the land that was published and the premises that the land that they had was given on, and it was just a lot of back and forth. I'm like, yo, this is way too much for this to be what was happening behind the background, and all the people who were originally first part of it and pulling out, and all the bad things that they said was going on behind the scenes, and somebody then slept with somebody. I'm like, what? All of this? Like, the more I read, it's just like, Jesus peace. And I wasn't questioning the information that we had in Oahspe, because still we can tell it's a higher light. But I can clearly tell at this point, John, and neither are any of us, he wasn't like this perfect person. So clearly, he, like I said, he was probably the best candidate available at that time to be able to bring, simply because of the lifestyle of vegetarianism and things that he had been practicing, how well he understood, or at least at that time, some of the things spiritually, that he was probably the only one probably willing to listen to a spirit overshadow him to go get a typewriter, let us do this, right? But clearly, the overshadowing the Oahspe team had stipulations even on him because of his, let's just say, character flaws, right? And I'm just like, sheesh, but it is quite interesting. And look, and he sure didn't bronze. He want that bedroom getting cold. Talk all this crap. Yes, I'm living according to the law 100%. But let too many nights pass, and the winter start rolling in, right? You're gonna start looking for a boo and start heating it up, right? And then you start singing another song. I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna sing it. Nope. Let me keep reading. Hold on. I lost my spot again. Hold up. Sweet Shalom. Hold on. March. Right, okay. Newbro wrote an additional manuscript, The Government and Bylaws of Faithless Fraternities, which accommodated his marital status for entering Shalam. Resident members were called the, quote, inner council, end quote. Non-resident financial supporters, the, quote, outer council, end quote. Newbro designated July 26, 1884 as the, quote, Holy Cosmine Day, end quote. Inspiration, chapter 18, verse 1. I think that's 18. XV. I said it right. 18. XV. Is that 18? Anyway, Inspiration, chapter 18, verse 1. It's in Roman numerals. On that day, Andrew M. Howland, a wealthy Boston businessman and heir of Sylvia Ann Howland and her niece, Hetty Howland Robinson Green, his double cousin, visited camp. Wait a minute. Hold on. His double cousin. First of all, somebody used this. Why would he send that? Hold on. It's my son. Oh, and I got to send this to him because he. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. Hold on. He got a code sent to my phone. And he needed because he got a. All right. There you go. Okay. Listen, the first time I heard this term double cousin was yesterday, but not when Cosmon was reading this. Earlier that day, when I was connecting to somebody like on my dad's side of the family, they said, yeah, I was going through the family lines and I see that we're double cousins. I'm like, hold on. What you mean double cousin? I'm like, yo. And I just kind of, I was like, I don't know that I want to know about that right now. Just, I'm super excited that I can see further down my father's family line. Just, I don't know that I'm ready for the double cousin or whatever you about to say about that right now. Just, but I asked, I'm like, what you mean about double cousin? Wait, I don't know that I want to know. Wait, hold on, wait. Just think about it. I'll come back to you. And so when I heard Cosmo say it last night, I was like, there go that double cousin. I don't even know that I want to log back in to see if they responded yet to that. Because I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna say. I don't even know what they mean. But I know what I think I mean, but I could be wrong, right? They could have just been saying something else. But I don't know. I'm really scared to look. I'm really scared to look. Okay, hold on. I lost my spot again. I gotta stop it. Hold on. Double cousin. There it go. Okay. Newbro designated July 26, 1884 as the, quote, Holy Cosmine Day, end quote. Inspiration 18, verse 1. On that day, Andrew M. Howland, a wealthy Boston businessman and heir of Sylvia Ann Howland and her niece, Hetty Howland Robinson Green, his double cousin, visited Camp Horrid and promised to fund the project as treasurer of the outer council. In Howland's present day, the volunteers covenanted as members of the inner council, with Dr. Newbro, their leader, sea chief. In 1888, Howland testified that he first read Oahspe in the spring of 1883, after which he corresponded with Dr. Newbro, and they first met at Boston. Hold on, can I just go back up? Okay. In 1888, Howland testified that he first read Oahspe in the spring of 1883, after which he corresponded with Dr. Newbro, and they first met at Boston in October 1883. With $1,000 from Andrew Howland, Dr. Newbro and Joseph Grill went on a search by train to California to find land for Shalam. On August 25, 1884, a telegram was received from Dr. Newbro that he, quote, had discovered Shalam, end quote. A letter followed that it was at Donna Ana near Las Cruces. Dr. Newbro alone returned to New Mexico with Andrew Howland's money on October 4th, 1884, purchased the land from John and Josepha Barncastle for 22 for $2,250 deeded to Howland, not questioning the Southwest Desert choice differing from the timbered location described in Oahspe. The volunteers left Pearl River, New York on October the 15th and arrived at Donna Ana, New Mexico on October the 19th, 1884. The Shalam volunteers were not told of the financial arrangement between Newbro and Howland for financing Shalam. They assumed Howland was donating the land for their community. When Dr. Reuben Carter, a professional colleague of Newbro's, arrived on March 29th, 1885, he visited the Donna Ana courthouse and discovered there was no legal organization and Howland was the sole owner of the property. This news upset the volunteers at Shalam, and they asked that the property be conveyed to them as a legal organization. Subsequently, Shalam was organized as, quote, the First Church of Tay, end quote, in December 1885, when the members signed articles of incorporation and a deed of trust drawn up by Andrew Howland at Boston. The property was conveyed to the corporation conditionally. Only two vegetarian meals daily, not less than 5 new orphans taken in monthly, no outside help permitted, and upon written demand, paying Howland all the money he had invested. Signing as incorporators were John B. Newbro, Harold Sandberg, Gustave Percival, Percy Wicksell, Maddie Patterson, James Watson Jr., Joseph Grill, Arthur L. Whiteside, William L. Jones, William T. Vance, Mary P. Davis, Charles B. Huggins, Isaac F. Wilson, Francis V. Sweet, Nellie F. Jones, Jesse M. Ellis, William Wells, John P. Wells, John B. Ross, Helena Terrenluno, Sarah Wells, Martha Wells, Catherine Shaw, Henry S. Tanner, and Lydia A. Hutchinson. Recorded in the Book of Deeds, number 7, pages 101 to 103, Donna Ana County, New Mexico. Howland sold his wool business in Boston and arrived to live in Shalam on February 13th, 1886. But Howland never joined the Church of Tay. The volunteers thought he would become a covenant member like themselves and donate the land, but he did not. Instead, the cooperative project they volunteered for, they found themselves legally and financially obligated to Howland. He was a businessman. He just wanted to invest and his he wanted his cut. He wanted a return on his investment. According to court testimony, there were disagreements about allowing. Hold on. According to court testimony, there were disagreements about allowing mistresses in the community and Dr. Newbro spanking members' children without parental consent. Disenchanted and dissatisfied, the members held a meeting on March 12th, 1886, and sent a petition to Dr. Newbro asking him to give them the fraternal government he had promised. That same day, Howland revoked the deed of trust to take the. It's a bunch of crap. This is why I don't do partnerships. Only partnership, me and my husband. Even people would listen because I done seen too many. Not that partnerships can't work, because they absolutely can. But you got to have all the legalese, legalities, all of that stuff handled upfront and paperwork. You got to have your exit plans. All that stuff has to be written, because what if one of the partners decide they don't want to do it no more? How does this happen? What conveys where? How much this do we pay? Do we buy you out? All like, too much. Too much, right? Listen, I knew this was going to be some crap from the beginning. That same day, Howland revoked the deed of trust to take the property back from the corporation and demanded payment of $37,282.18 from the members. The Board of Trustees, John Newbro, Francis Sweet, Henry Tanner, Joseph Grill, and Jesse Ellis, returned the property to Howland on March 13, 1886. On March 15, 1886, Andrew Howland issued written eviction orders. They being evicted off of Shalam. On March 15, 1886, Andrew Howland issued written eviction orders to 5 members who were forced to leave. Subsequently, all members departed except Dr. Newbro, Mrs. Sweet, Joseph Grill, Mattie Patterson, and Henry Tanner. New volunteers were sought. On July 9, 1886, Dr. Newbro sued for divorce from Rachel Turnbull, Donna Ana County, New Mexico, civil case number 952. The divorce was granted October 6, 1886. On January 22, 1857, 3 of the former members sued Dr. Newbro and Andrew Howland. Jesse M. Ellis, civil case 1050, Arthur L. Whiteside, civil case 1051, and Harold Sandberg, civil case 1052. Ellis alleged he was deceived and injured by false, fraudulent, and deceitful writings, pretending a foundation on sound principles of morality and purity, and alleged that Newbro was at the same time living a life of impurity, immorality, and dishonor. He charged Newbro with subjecting himself and his children to great personal tyranny and servility. Oof. On September 28, 1887, John B. Newbro and Frances Van Water Sweet were married at Shalam. I'd have been like, look, I just heard Malachi's voice. What are we reading here? With Oahspe in our hands. And you got married at Shalam. What are we reading here? I'm sorry, y'all. This is not funny. This is people's lives, but by putting all this stuff together, researching it, oh my gosh, this is hilarious to me. Right? This further, listen, what this does is this helps me. I don't know if it helps y'all, but you know how sometimes you can look at people and you kind of like just put them on a pedestal like they perfect and they don't make no mistakes, right? Listen, this is like airing out all their dirty laundry because they're men and women. They make mistakes, right? They do some dumb stuff. I find myself doing some dumb stuff, but we're not gonna, like, the whole reason why we're here is to live out the principles in Oahspe. Before we even get it started good, you're violating one of the principles in Oahspe. Like, everybody done read it. Like, we all know what it say. And you want to hold your wedding here on the property of Shalam. I've been looking around. I wouldn't say nothing at first. Mama just be like, anybody see a problem with this? Like, somebody got to say something, right? Look, hold on. On September 28, 1887, John B. Newbro and Frances Van Water Sweet were married at Shalam. Also during 1887, Dr. Newbro wrote the book of Gradius, Founding of Leviticus, in which he mentioned the members leaving Shalam, chapter 1, verse 21, and the lawsuits, verse 6. I mean, I guess you got to come back and you got to spin the story. Man, John. In November 1887, Howland sent the Newbros and most members to New Orleans until the trial was over. The Newbros established a baby receiving home on the corner of Clay and Patton Streets where they lived from 1887 until 1890. The trial was postponed several times because Dr. Newbro was not present, but was finally scheduled to convene on May 3rd, 1888 anyway. On April 29th, 1888, the one remaining member at Shalam, Dr. Henry S. Tanner, left on the northbound train. Legally, the property owner, but not a member, Andrew Howland alone, stood trial, which took place in Las Cruces, New Mexico on May 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 1888. On May 5th, 1888, the jury returned a guilty verdict and assessed damages of, it's like, it looks like $1 and like dash, but that squiggly line. I forget what you call that squiggly line at the top of the keyboard at the far left hand corner at the top. What's that little? It's like a dash, but then it's like a squiggly dash. It says they assess damages of $1, squiggly line 00. It could just be $1, or it could be an uncertain amount. On appeal, the verdict was set aside on August 19th, 1891, New Mexico Supreme Court case 386, report of 1896, pages 182 to 191. Yes, Tootie. I'm using this. Going back upstairs. Jamil said he had a mission. Look, hold on. I had to wait for Bella to go back upstairs. She might not even know what this word is, but I don't want to say it. And she hear it, and she walk around through the house and randomly say it. Then I'm gonna be like, "What you just say?" Jamil said. Jamil said he had a mission. He would have been alone. He just wanted Kewchie. Look, hold on. Still in New Orleans, during 1889, Dr. Newbro published a monthly magazine called The Castaway, publicizing the Shalam orphanage, seeking babies and volunteers. 9 issues were published from March to and including November 1889. In the July 1889 issue, Newbro wrote, quote, "We have 58 years yet ahead by 1947 to get ready in. At or before that time, all the present governments, religions, and all money monopolies are to be overthrown and go out of existence." We're in 2022. We're a few days shy from 2023. That his prophecy was a bit off. Over 100 years off. Way over that. The typewritten Oahspe manuscript with pages of pencil-drawn plates was kept in an oak box at Shalam. While Andrew Howland was alone at Shalam from 1888 to 1890, he made revision notes in an 1882 Oahspe subsequently used by the Boston printer to publish the 1891 second edition. Not in zero, hold on. Or, yeah, this is zero. Not in zero, quote, not in zero, end quote, was a recurring note in the revisions thought to mean not in original not in original manuscript. They don't know the difference between the O and the zero. That's what threw me off. Not in, it should be O, but they use the zero. It's two different, it's an O and it's a zero. The zero is skinnier, letting you notice the number. The fatter O is the letter. It threw me off. Okay, not in O was a recurring note in revisions thought to mean not in original manuscript. However, following one such note was, quote, "Let this stand as it is," end quote. For years, the 1882 Oahspe with Howland's revision notes was in storage at That's El Paso. Okay. At El Paso, Texas. In 1972, it was donated to New Mexico State University Library Rio Grande Collections at Las Cruces, New Mexico. Howland's revision Howland's revision notes appear close to, if not the same as the handwriting in the 1882 Oahspe plates. Research requiring a handwriting experiment. I'm sorry, a handwriting expert. From 1881 until Newbro died, Oahspe manuscripts were written and revised. He died of influenza, la grippe, la grippe, or is la grippe, la grippe, LA space GRIPPE, on April 22nd, 1891, before the second edition of Oahspe was printed in Boston, and before the New Mexico Supreme Court reversed the judgment of the district court on August 19, 1891. Andrew Howland married Frances Van Water Newbro. I missed this part. Ooh, you dirty dog. You probably couldn't wait for John to get into the ground. I'm gonna get your woman. Andrew Howland married Frances Van Water Newbro at Shalam on June 25th, 18. I wonder if that marriage stuff was from the creator or from JB himself. Now that's a good question now. That is a really good question now. Clearly, clearly it's being passed around in Shalam, Jamil. They passing around Kewchie and Shalam. Listen, I missed this last night when he read this. Listen, I was not doing this much laughing. It was not this funny to me last night, but now that I'm reading it, because I was doing other stuff trying to, I wasn't catching on to them small little details. Oh, this is not a good look for Shalom. Andrew Howland married Frances Van Water Newbro at Shalom on June 25th, 1893. He had been married before and had a daughter in Boston, Mary Howland Leroy. I'm sorry, May Howland Leroy. I've never. I could be wrong. I don't know everything. I could be wrong. I just never seen like a Caucasian person with Leroy for any of their names, first, middle, or last. Leroy or Leroy. Bruce Leroy. Like when I hear Leroy or Leroy, I think of black people. I don't know. Andrew Howland married Frances Van Water Newbro at Shalam on June 25th, 1893. He had been married before and had a daughter in Boston, May Howland Leroy. Between 1891 and 1907, Howland lost the rest of his fortune trying to implement Levitica. They adopted a few orphans. Most were sent elsewhere before they left Shalam on November 30th, 1907. They visited Long Beach, California until June 25th, 1908, then moved to El Paso, Texas, where they resided at 1118 Rio Grande and 1019 East Rio Grande Street. In 1909, Newbro's daughter, Justine B., did another printing of Oahspe under copyright. Newbro, although the Howlands continued to sell Oahspe from their home, they had switched their faith to New Thought Unity before Howland died on April 10th, 1917, and his wife on January 3rd, 1922. Yeah, this is yeah. In 1898, Franklin P. White, a former participant in Howland's Levitica community, returned home and founded a Denver fraternity. His wife, Clara E. White, was a medium and claimed to restore Oahspe to its true, unrevised form, which they published under the title Romance of the Red Star, a biography of the Earth. That's what I was looking for last night. It included a chapter, excuse me, let me get a sip of water. Selah, bruh. Look, you know we looking into that. There's a Selah said, let me find out all these people were ninjas. They doing ninja sugar honey iced tea. Listen, that is there's some slight indications on what I found, right? You know, the whole conversation we had in the chat, me and Jamil, with certain things that I found. There in one of John Lance's records, it said his complexion, and that's what we was trying to figure out, right? That's why we kind of wanted to work through some of the details before I presented that, because I ain't be like, yo, this dude a ninja. I ain't want to say all that because they have some terms in there on some of his records, or at least on John Lant, what I'm talking about, on some of his records that label him light skinned, right? You don't normally call white people light skinned, right? So I'm just like, when I asked him, I said, it could be possible because during that days you had a lot of black people, they call it passing as white, right? If you can look up passing, Shebrew, new bro equals new bro. Now, I think new bro was really a Caucasian dude, but I'm referring to John Lant. Like I said, in some of his records I saw, um it has him being as light skinned. It just kind of threw me off a little bit because I'm just like, okay, they were missing something. I was like, light skin with gray eyes. Jamie, I said, I don't know any black people with gray eyes. She said, there sure are. Then she started pulling up some pictures, but she sent me a link with black people, real light skin with gray eyes. I'm like, oh, shoot. Well, yeah. Then I was like, oh, shoot. Yeah. I don't know. Looking at some details. You said, Selah said that you just repeating. Look, I don't know. So don't think we just kind of working out some details with some of this stuff we didn't found, So I don't know. As far as we know, we're gonna leave their colors alone because I haven't verified it yet. All right, but I am looking into the passing part for John Lant simply because of some of the things I found in his records that was like, that's normally not attributed. That's not this. That's normally for people of color. It's interesting, right? So I don't know. I just got to see it to the end before I start. I don't want to just like present it and be like, oh shoot, I just should have just kept reading a little bit more. But look, Hannah said Lincoln was described as dark skinned with gray eyes. Right. Look, I posted Curie Mayo. I know Selah had did a video on it a while ago, and I reposted his video, but Curie Mayo actually did a video on Lincoln, and I reposted it in the community section yesterday as well as on Facebook. But it's really, really interesting. He read some of the listen, there's a letter in a Chicago, was it the Chicago something society. They have the letter in their records. And it was somebody when they were pissed that Lincoln became president, they call him all kinds of ninjas, right? Like, I mean, the whole letter was full of profanity. And that's why I think because of the nature of it, that's why I said this is false information. The fact finder, as soon as I posted it, I tried deleting it and putting it up there with a tiny URL link so it wouldn't do that, but it still figured it out, right? So it said we in fact found this and this is found to be true. I'm like, sometimes you gotta check the fact finders because the fact finders are false. And if you just go looking into some real live records, you will find this letter lodged in the Chicago something society. You'll see this letter. I screenshot the letter that's in there, right? So I'm just like, where do you get these fact finders from? The fact finders are garbage. Because y'all not really doing y'all job. Because if you was doing your job, you will see that this is true. And true indeed. Abraham Lincoln was a black man, right? He was a black man. That sound like blasphemy to some people, but go start looking into some historical records and documents, right? It's a lot of different books out there, historical. You can call them peer reviewed, authorized stuff that's talking about Lincoln, just going to some of his stuff. And then they found the picture that they using for Abraham Lincoln is actually a picture of a photographer because they found a photographer's picture, right? And they just kind of changed the face. It's like in his video, they do this side by side comparison, right? So I would, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. That's pretty interesting. I think it's about if 30 minutes maybe. And he also mentions this blackface video that they did about Lincoln, right? Watching that, and actually don't just watch it, listen to them singing stuff, but listen to the words that they're singing while they're doing the blackface impersonation of Abraham Lincoln. It's really, really interesting. It's really interesting putting these pieces together, right? Okay, hold on. Okay. In 1898, Franklin P. White, a former participant in Howland's Levitica community, returned home and founded a Denver fraternity. His wife, Clara E. White, was a medium and claimed to restore Oahspe to its true, unrevised form, which they published under the title Romance of the Red Star, a biography of the earth. It included a chapter they said was omitted from Oahspe, although, quote, corrected, end quote, and renamed, their version violated the copyright of Oahspe sold by the Howlands. Dorothy Willis, and we ain't gonna get to read nothing else. We're gonna finish this letter. Hold on. Let's see how much more we got. It ain't that much more. Okay. I found my spot. Participant. Okay. Dorothy Willis of our research group located the book in a Colorado library and obtained a photocopy, which we donated to the New Mexico State University Library Historical Archives in memory of Harry O. Hilton. On April 5th, 1902, the Brotherhood of Light Society was organized in Denver, Colorado. The Inner Council was composed of Louis W. Van Dyke, Sea Chief, Mary A. Elliott, Secretary, Fred A. Suter, Minnie E. Wheeler, Albert A. and Grace A. Bass, and George Clark Rose. Chief and Secretary of the Outer Council was Nelson K. Standard, and an optician at 255 Woodard Avenue, Detroit, Michigan. Also, nine members of the Outer Council. Also, nine, I ain't gonna add an S. Also, 9 member of the Outer Council was the first Oahspe printer, John A. Lant, then residing at 4265 Easton Avenue, St. Louis, Missouri. Okay, so this John A. Lant is not the same person as John A. Lant. I found both of them. And I thought that was interesting because as I was going through separating records, I came across them. I'm like, is that a typo? But I looked at the details of John A. Lant, and they were completely different from the details that I had found from John A. Lant. But it's interesting here that two people of names of such close magnitude would be together in the same place dealing with the same type of thing, right? Unless this was a stage name or something, right? But you can find information on the John A. Lant in there as well. Because for a second, I mistakenly added it to the box, to the group of the John A. Lant stuff until I started going into the deeper details for him. I was like, okay, it's another. I'm like, wait, hold on. Why is that changing? Wait, go back. Lant, Lant, Lance, pull them up and looking at the stuff. I was like, oh, these two different people. I'm like, okay, yeah, so these are two different people, y'all. At least according to what I was looking at night before last and putting together all these documents, right? Okay. Also, 9 member of the outer council, it's like the number 9. Also, 9, the number 9 member of the outer council was the first Oahspe printer, but it says the first Oahspe printer. The first Oahspe printer was John A. Lant, not Lant. So it could be a typo in here, but there is an actual Lant. It's weird how this is because the first Oahspe printer is Lant, but there is a Lant in there. So it's really interesting. I don't really know what that means yet. Also, 9 member of the outer council was the first Oahspe printer, John A. Lant, then residing at 4265 Easton Avenue, St. Louis, Missouri. In 1909, at the request of the American Society for Psychiatrical Research investigating the origin of Oahspe, Nelson Standard recorded the information about the origin of Oahspe he received from Lant, a copy of which I obtained from Dr. Newbrow's grandnephew in 1963. He could be biracial, right? He really could be, right? He really could be. Which is going to bring in a whole new insight about some things and the time that all of this was going on. In 1909, at the request of the American Society for Psychiatrical Research investigating the origin of Oahspe, Nelson Standard recorded the information about the origin of Oahspe he received from Lant, a copy of which I obtained from Dr. Newbrow's grandnephew in 1963. Excuse me. Dr. James Hislop of the Society asked Nelson Standard to send all of the Lant proof sheets, but Standard refused to let them out of his organization's archives. A few days after mailing the Lant information, he requested those notes back, but Hislop was permitted to keep a photograph of Dr. Newbrow and the Lant proof sheet accompanying the notes. The Brotherhood of Light Society first took in orphans on a farm near Denver and later moved to Arboles, Arhuleta County, Colorado, on the southern UTE Indian Reservation. The orphanage operated for a number of years. When some of the orphans were 14 years old, George Rose took them on a tour of Los Angeles and recorded their trip activities in a log. In October 1909, Standard said his organization had between 500 and 600 of the Lant proof sheets, plus a considerable number of duplicates and some of the paper matrices used to cast the metal plates as well. He had them in his own possession for a number of years, then sent them to their headquarters at Arboles, Colorado. Standard mailed one duplicate proof sheet and the Book of Sathantes to the American Society for Psychiatrical Research and another to, that's interesting. Standard, excuse me. Standard mailed one duplicate proof sheet and the Book of Sathantes to the American Society for Psychiatrical Research and another to J. Nelson Jones, author of Thuamat Oahspe in Australia. Years later, Wing Anderson acquired about 80 duplicates of the Lant proof sheets, now known as the Book of Knowledge, plus some pages of the original Book of Safa, not in Oahspe. Where the collection of over 500 proof sheets and paper matrices are, if they survive, is yet unknown. Another research project, is which we've taken on, the other research project. The Lant-proof versions of Oahspe preceded the typewritten manuscript Howland used to compare the 1882 Oahspe while revising it for the 1891 edition. This confirms Lent's. It's probably a typo going through here because there's a few typos in this, and now it's Lent. We got Lant, Lant, Lent, and Lent. Lint, right? Clearly, this is a typo here. I just lost my spot again. Okay, I found it. This confirmed Lent's, Lints, which is probably Lant, right? This confirmed Lant's information that Dr. Newbrough abandoned an earlier manuscript for a revised one, which became the 1882 edition. Many of the Lant-proof verses are worded differently and use more panic words such as Chad for God. Substitution of English for panic words was acknowledged in the publisher's remarks preceding the 1882 version of the book of in the 1882 version of the book of Ben. Let me read it again. Hold on. Kizzy Shalam says, many of the Lant-proof verses are worded differently and use more panic words such as Chad for God. Substitution of English for panic words was acknowledged in the publisher's remarks preceding the 1882 version of the Book of Ben. Not only were words substituted in the 1882 Oahspe, information was changed and material was omitted. I didn't catch that comment. So I wonder how much of the original overshadowing what was actually in the panic language, right? Because they're in Oahspe, there's a few charts in here. And also I think is it Safa? The first book of Safa, which is Samoan, it goes through that whole chart of 121 symbols, icons of panic words and stuff, and translating them into like English and all the other forms. That's interesting. That's really interesting. I didn't catch that last night. I didn't catch that when he read that. That is interesting. Many of the Lant-proof verses are worded differently and use more panic. Remember, panic, the first language according to Oahspe, panic is the original language that comes from the continent of Pan, the continent that was sunk, panic language, right? It was using that language. Interesting. Many of the Lant-proof verses are worded differently and use more panic words such as Chad for God. Substitution of English for panic words was acknowledged in the publisher's remarks preceding the 1882 version of the Book of Ben. Not only were words substituted in the 1882 Oahspe, information was changed and material was omitted. The Confraternity of Faithists in London, England, began publishing the 1881 edition of Oahspe from smaller plates with English spelling words like color, COLOUR, in 1909 or 1910. Boom. Let me ask you something, my friends from the UK, if y'all are here today. Y'all here? My UK family. I'm scrolling through the. I saw y'all came in. Y'all still here? Great Spirit. Y'all still here? Y'all still here? The ones watching from the UK. If you are, if some of y'all here, you may come back later and watch it. Matter of fact, I think I'm like gonna send you a message. Here, UK family, pop out. The question is, what version of Oahspe do y'all have there? Do y'all only have the versions we have here? Or have there been floating around there, maybe in somebody's possession, somebody that's there? Do y'all actually have like the 1891 version? Is that the first one? The 1882 version? I'm wondering if y'all have some of like the earliest ones, because some of the things that happened in England, it's making a mention of it. The Confraternity of Faithists in London, England began publishing the 1891 edition of Oahspe from smaller plates with English spelling words like color in 1909 or 1910. I'm just wondering, because maybe in their libraries or something, maybe somebody that they know, if there are Faithist communities there in England that we don't know about, that, I wonder what type of materials they have. That was just a question. If y'all still here, they may have stepped out for a second. I don't know, but I'm gonna see if I can. I'm gonna send them a message. All right. The Confraternity of Faithists in London, England, began publishing the 1891 edition of Oahspe from smaller plates and with English spelling of words like color in 1909 or 1910. In 1934, Wing Anderson purchased the Oahspe copyright, printing plates, and 2,700 unbound books from Dr. Newbro's daughter, and published the bite-sized 18 what? Hold on. In 1934, Wing Anderson purchased the Oahspe copyright, printing plates, and 2,700 unbound books from Dr. Newbro's daughter, and published the bite-sized 1891 edition. As a new owner of the Oahspe copyright, Anderson warned Franklin White to stop selling romance for the Red Star. Anderson helped Newbro's daughter, Justine Newbro, who married W.B. Williams and had 3 children, divorced and changed her name to Joan Howland. Wait. Anderson helped Newbro's daughter, Justine Newbro, who married W.B. Williams and had 3 children, divorced and changed her name to Joan Howland. Wait, is this the same? I wrote the name down. Last night I said, who wrote the letter? I said Joan. What was Joan's last name? Is this same Joan? This woman that's 91, 97. This is Newbro's daughter that's still alive today? Is this like the same person? Anybody? I got that right? Bueller? No? Okay, I got it wrong. Okay. But the person who wrote the letter that Cosmo was talking about, and was talking about the chest, Joan Greer. Okay, I did. I got the last names mixed up. Okay, all right. Okay, this is Joan Howland. All right, thank you. All right, I just want to double check. Anderson helped Newbro's daughter, Justine Newbro, who married W.B. Williams and had 3 children, divorced and changed her name to Joan Howland, relocated to Southern California, 1938. For a time, he employed the family in his book-selling business. The relationship became strained, however, because Joan wanted no contact with readers of Oahspe. When Anderson interviewed her on March 30th, 1960, about Oahspe and Shalam history, she said that was the last she would ever talk to him about, based on Newbro's forecast of world conditions in 1947. Hold on. When Anderson interviewed her on March 20th, 1960, about Oahspe and Shalam history, she said that was the last time she would ever talk to him about, based on Newbro's forecast of world conditions in 1947. Wing Anderson wrote and successfully marketed a series of prophecy books during the World War II years. He established his Essenes of Cosmon community at North Salt Lake in 1944. Utah would not permit the organization to adopt children, so he moved the project to Colorado. But the Utah problem followed them. Wing and Lillian Anderson personally adopted two boys, Carl and Thor. He disbanded his organization in 1957. In 1960,
One sec. Okay, I found this on the web for a series of prophecy books during the World War II years. He establishes the Scenes of Cosme community at North Salt Lake in
I wasn't talking to you, girl. In 1960, Ray Palmer, Amherst Press, began printing the green covered facsimiles. I always screw that up. I think it's facsimiles of the 1882 Oahspe edition, which are still sold. After Wing Anderson died at Fallen, Nevada in 1970, his 1891 edition of Oahspe went out of print, but the English version of the 1891 edition is still available. What really happened to the typewritten Oahspe manuscript? In 1909, Nelson Standard wrote to Andrew Howland requesting information about the origin of Oahspe for an investigation by Dr. James H. Hislop of the American Society for Psychiatrical Research. Howland had Justine B. Newbro write the society directly, promising her full cooperation, but instead, she deliberately burned her father's paintings. 1960 interview. The Half Truth cover story told Percy Wixell, K.D. Stowes, and others was that the paintings and Oahspe manuscript had been crated in their El Paso home basement for shipment to the American Society for Psychiatrical Research in New York City when a flash flood came down from nearby Mount Franklin and destroyed them all. So they were burned as rubbish. But Joan Howland, Justine Newbro, said in 1960 she destroyed them by fire on purpose, which prevented the ASPR from examining the originals. Between 1909 and 1970, between 1909 and 1917, Mrs. Howland and Justine Newbro answered letters promising to cooperate with the ASPR investigation, but never did. Excuse me. A subsequent effort by an adopted daughter, I'm sorry, a subsequent effort by an adopted Howland daughter to replace the typewritten manuscript indicates she may have participated in its deliberate destruction. The children at Shalam were given Oahspe names. Justine Newbro Howland's was Etizii. Her adopted sister's name was Ninya, Nin. Nin was born Louise Howard on October 15th. Excuse me. I need that support. Hold on, y'all. I agree with that. I agree with that, Selah. He said they should have been focused on purging self before starting Shalom. I agree with that. Now I'm wondering, listen, his daughter, she was there, right? So she probably seen some stuff that she really hasn't been forthcoming with saying, because a lot of people like family stuff or whatever, sometimes you don't really blast that out loud. You'll kind of keep all of that stuff under wraps, right? So with some of the stuff that she personally experienced while going through Shalam herself, and for her to actually burn this stuff, right? Now it could not have necessarily been the words in Oahspe, right? Because reading through this, I don't necessarily think there's an issue with this. It's a higher light, but I think there was this contradiction in the face of all of those who were present. They had to deal with. It's almost like slave masters beating the slaves with the Bible, to where the Bible became like this it's like, we're gonna keep you in line with this, right? This seems like this is what happened with Oahspe and Shalom, and why they have such uh ill feelings towards it. What they probably couldn't get past is the actual actions of the people who should have been leaders at Shalam. There was this conflict between what we were reading and what was actually happening, what y'all were doing. You said you're following this, but you're not, right? What probably would have turned some people off. How you act, like if they never read it, you acting like this. So they looking at your actions and they formulating in their minds what this might say when they contradict one another, right? So it's like she got that real-time experience, and she did all this agreeing to come talk to them and share things with them, and then she said she burned it, like on purpose. She probably burned it before the flood came. Maybe the flood story, I'm sure there was a flood, but maybe she said that so maybe she had already burned it, and the flood just happened and it just made it convenient to say that, hey, it was all destroyed in the flood. Right? How convenient would it be to box up something, put it in a crate, and leave it in the basement? Right? I mean, if you crating it up, first of all, listen, if you got a big box that you're crating up that's going to be shipped and delivered, why would it be in the basement? Right? Would it not be on the top floor? If not like in the living room, living quarters, like the main living place? Why was it down in the basement? I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I don't believe that happened. Right? In the basement, it's a big crate. It's supposed to be being shipped out, right? Preparing for shipment. Who's going to go down in the basement, right? If you're going down in the basement, you got an elevator, you got stairs. Who's lifting up this big crate? How big is said crate? How big are the door openings? Right? I don't believe the basement flood story. I do believe she burned it. Right? That sounds more feasible to me. Right? Looking at all the other details, because based on what we see, how many pages, all that stuff, I don't think it was this small little tiny crate. I see crates. I deal with crates in our line of business. And when you say crate, when you use a crate and not a box, right? When we hear crate, we got crates coming. Oh, this is some big stuff for you to have to use a crate, right? It has to be a super strong box reinforced by wood, right? We're gonna need our forklift, right? Or at least a pallet jack, something, right? That tells me that it's huge, right? And it's heavy, right? You need something heavy to be able to hold the contents in place without it busting out the sides. So I'm thinking about all of this. I don't believe the flood story. I believe the burning, you know, and I could be wrong. I don't know, but just in our line of business and what we do, it may not be. I don't know. I'm just saying. That's just my best guess based on my personal experience and all the information I have to date. I don't know, but she is a couple different stories that she given. Like, which one is it, sis? All right, hold on. Howland had Justine beat. Howland had Justine Newbro. It says 8. It's probably B or something. It's probably supposed to be a middle initial, but it's number 8. Howland had Justine Newbro write the society directly, promising her full cooperation, but instead she deliberately burned her father's paintings. 1960 interview. The half-truth cover story told to Percy Wixell, K.D. Stowes, and others was that the paintings and Oahspe manuscript had been crated in their El Paso home basement for shipment to the American Society for Psychiatrical Research in New York City when a flash flood came down from nearby Mount Franklin and destroyed them all. So they were all burned as rubbish. Flood, burn, same sentence. I get it though. But Joan Howland, Justine Newbro, said in 1960 she destroyed them by fire on purpose, which prevented the ASPR from examining the originals. Between 1909 and 1917, Mrs. Howland and Justine Newbro answered letters promising to cooperate with the ASPR investigation, but never did. Yeah, maybe neither, maybe not. Maybe the angels, let me say, the angels went to, you might have to reword that. The angels went to a lot of trouble. It should have still been there. Or the angels went through a lot of trouble. I don't know. If she burned the portraits, where the pictures come from in Big Blue, he's made them up. I think it's something to alluding to where he talks about that. Yeah, I think he just made them pictures up because the pictures do not coincide with the people that it's talking about in the book, the copper colored people. Like these are like Like okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought you meant a lot. Okay. Um the portraits do not coincide with the words in the book. Like he made that up. He he made some of it up, if not all of it, right? Or maybe his drawing skills weren't that good. Maybe they didn't have color. I don't know. Color to color in with. I don't know. But it don't match the words. All right. A subsequent effort. Hold on. A subsequent effort, and we literally almost done, y'all. It's this small little portion left. A subsequent effort by an adopted Howland daughter to replace the typewritten manuscript indicates she may have participated in its deliberate destruction. The children at Shalam were given Oahspe names. Justine Newbro Howlands was Etizii. Her adopted sister's name was Ninya, Nin. Nin was born Louise Howard on October 15, 1888, in New Orleans and married Alfred J. Carpenter, an El Paso plumber, on June 5, 1915. In an effort to replicate the original, she laboriously typed an Oahspe manuscript and made pencil drawings of the plates. One page was a sample of the typewriting. It was intended to pass as the original manuscript, and it did. Her manuscript was donated to the Centennial Museum of the Texas Western College, which is now the University of Texas at El Paso, in 1949 by Louise Howard Cantrell. The museum acquisition was reported in the El Paso Herald on July 28, 1950, as being the genuine original Oahspe manuscript. Now, first of all, let me just say this. In an effort to replicate the original, she laboriously typed an Oahspe manuscript and made pencil drawings of the plates. First of all, let me just give sis her props on being able to remember a lot of this stuff and write out a whole new manuscript laboriously, right? I'm sure she had some of the same gifts her father had, right? I'm sure he probably taught her how to develop her spiritual gifts, where she could also be overshadowed or just pretty much call on some angelic help to help her. I'm almost sure of it. For her to reproduce this a second one, and it passed, like, you fooled everybody. Let me give her props for that. Let me give her props for that. I wonder how long it took her to do that. And if that's the case, it would it would it could explain why some of this is short of what we see in here, right? They could have added to this, you know, and vice versa. It's all suspect now. Every last bit of it. Hold on. In an effort to replicate the original, she laboriously typed an Oahspe manuscript and made pencil drawings of the plates. One page was a sample of the typewriting. It was intended to pass as the original manuscript, and it did. Her manuscript was donated to the Centennial Museum of the Texas Western College, which is now the University of Texas at El Paso, in 1949 by Louise Howard Cantrell. The museum acquisition was reported in the El Paso Herald on July 28, 1950, as being the genuine original Oahspe manuscript. The university transferred the manuscript from the museum to their library on September 21st, 1975, but the college couldn't find it for Ray Palmer in 1974. Dorothy Willis continued Palmer's quest for the manuscript in 1981. She founded our Oahspe Research Group, Dorothy Willis, Linda Blazer, Jim Denon. We asked the UTEP Library, University of Texas. Okay, University of Texas El Paso Library staff to keep looking. They moved into a new library building, but the manuscript eluded discovery until it turned up in a box during a Cosmine inventory on February 5th, 1987. After all our effort and wait, it was Nen Carpenter's typewriting, not Newbro's original manuscript. Ain't that some sugar honey iced tea? All of our effort. Hold on. They moved into a new building, into a new library building, but the manuscript eluded discovery until it turned up in a box during Cosmine inventory on February 5th, 1987. After all our effort and wait, it was Nen Carpenter's typewriting, not Newbro's original manuscript. Despite the disappointing outcome, our group added to the knowledge of Oahspe and Shalam history by locating records and photographs and contributing them to the New Mexico State University Library Rio Grande Historical Collections. And I'm almost 100% certain that that box, listen to this, but the manuscript eluded discovery until it turned up in a box during Cosmine inventory on February 5th, 1987. And I'm sure this is probably the same picture New Mexico State University sent to me with the John Lant plates and showing it to me. They actually took a picture of a box that it was in and sent it to me and said, this is how it. Okay. But the manuscript eluded discovery until it turned up in a box during Cosmine inventory on February 5th, 1987. All of our effort and wait, it was Nen Carpenter's typewriting, not Newbro's original manuscript. Despite the disappointing outcome, our group added to the knowledge of Oahspe and Shalam history by locating records and photographs and contributing them to the New Mexico State University Library Rio Grande Historical Collections. Dr. James H. Hislop. I'm reading this with an attitude now. So look, I want y'all to see this. Hold on. Cosmine asked a question last night. Everybody got quiet but me. Nobody answered the question but me. Is it safe to say that what we have here is not the John Lant plates? And I sat there and I took a sip of water out of my pink, coldest water bottle. If I smoked, I probably would have lit a cigarette. Ain't this some? I probably would have lit a spliff if I still smoked. I'm like, you know what? You know what? This is part of research. You have minor setbacks. And I finally I typed in there, yes, that would be fair to say. That would be fair to say. If y'all didn't catch it, remember, we got a table, we got a shelf, We got an important box. We also have a shenanigans box, right? And we got a trash can down here on the floor. You realize which place I put them papers, right? Right in the trash can. Listen, I cannot, in all good conscience, from this point, I was like, because I was like, I didn't print out last night. Like, I didn't print out because we're supposed to be starting at the Lord's third book. I didn't print it out. I'm just like, I'm like, Justine Newbro, where my lighter? Look, y'all can do whatever y'all want to do with it, but I don't like when I realized, when I got new information, Malachi, right? More research. When I realize I run into a dead end or I need to adjust, I don't like keep going in the same direction that I absolutely know for a certain now that this is not it. I can't in good conscience continue reading it anymore. I cannot. I know I done sent it to everybody super hype and everything, but we had to see it to the end, my G. But now I'm certain of this now, right? The questions we was talking about, I was just going through that little portion in the book of Apollo. I'm just like, okay, so what we're gonna do, we'll go back to Big Blue. Look, because I still ain't got my other ones in the mail yet, right? They said it would be here by like the 29th or 30th, like the earlier versions, right? So until I get the earlier versions here, I guess we're gonna kind of rock with Big Blue and start the next chapter while we go through and just kind of keep pulling stuff out, you know. But that, I mean, let me just finish reading this. Hold on. Hold on. Given Oahspe names. Okay. The university transferred the manuscript from the museum to their library on September 21st, 1975. But the college couldn't find it for Ray Palmer in 1974. Dorothy Wills continued Palmer's quest for the manuscript in 1981. She founded our Oahspe Research Group, Dorothy Wills, Linda Blazer, Jim Denning. We asked the UTEP library staff to keep looking. They moved into a new library building, but the manuscript eluded discovery until it turned up in a box during Cosmine inventory on February 5th, 1987. After all our effort and wait, it was Nen Carpenter's typewriting, not Newbro's original manuscript. Despite the disappointing outcome, our group added to the knowledge of Oahspe and Shalam history by locating records and photographs and contributing them to the New Mexico State University Library Rio Grande Historical Collections. Dr. James H. Hislop of the American Society for Psychiatrical Research was favorably inclined toward Dr. Newbro and Oahspe. If Nelson Standard, Andrew Howland, Francis Newbro Howland, and Justine B. Newbro had cooperated with him, the over 500 John A. Lant proof sheets and the original typewritten Oahspe manuscript, as well as Dr. Newbro's paintings, would all be safe in the ASPR's archives today. The old saying, quote, "Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater," is worth taking into account relative to Oahspe and its history. Everything in the universe proves the Great Spirit. In our short ride on this planet, we are all wondering about the same things, particularly what happens to us after death. Jim Denning. And that's the end of that letter. And he has references in here. And don't skip over those, y'all, because they are really, really important to your research. I figured it out. That's why we read footnotes and stuff. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 6 references here where he pulled some of his information from while writing his letter. The first one is a sketch of the Faithists, including the Book of Zimmers, 1883, and the 1882 Oahspe containing revision notes by Andrew Howland 1890, New Mexico State University, Rio Grande Collections, Las Cruces, New Mexico. The second, John A. Lant information, notes by Nelson K. Standard, 1909, Detroit, Michigan, confirmed by Lant's handwritten notes in Newbro's Woman Wish poetry book, University of Virginia. I'm going to go look into that because it might help me with some of the information on John Lant. The next one is a Oahspe research file, 1908 to 1918, American Society for Psychiatrical Research Incorporated, New York, New York. The fourth footnote is a Oahspe manuscript typewritten by Mrs. Alfred J. Louise Carpenter, 1929, University of Texas at El Paso Library, Special Collections, El Paso, Texas. Tape recorded interview of Dr. Newbro's daughter by Wing Anderson, March 20th, 1960, Southgate, California. Tape, okay. The fifth one is John Ballou Newbro and the Oahspe Bible by Daniel Nathan Simonson, 1972, Department of History, University of New Mexico, 303 pages. And the last reference is the Oahspe Story, 1965, Dr. Newbro and Oahspe, 1975, and More of Oahspe, a compilation and pre and post publication manuscripts, 1983, by Jim Denning. That was good. I'm so glad I decided to read this over. I hope that helped us all out. Ema, I know, right? I knew it wasn't. Just had that feeling. I know. Like when you said it, I'm like, here Ema go. You know. You was like, I love Pam's enthusiasm, but I'm like, Ema, don't do me. That's what I was thinking to myself. But as I started looking into it, I'm like, Ema is right. Ema is right. Right. So remember, I learned early on in my going postal days, like, listen, everybody ain't out to get you, Pam. They might have some good insight. You don't know everything, right? My little attitudes I be catching. I learned to stop doing that. I felt it rising up on the inside of me when Ema said that in the group. She said, but I love her enthusiasm, though. I smacked my lips and rolled my eyes. I'm about to call. I'm about to FaceTime Ema right now. How you say that? You can just call me Ema. No, seriously. But when she said that, though, after I got over myself, it took about 2 minutes for me to shake that off, right? After about 2 minutes, I'm like, well, and I pulled it back up. I got my portion that I had printed out, right? And I was just kind of looking through some stuff, but I like deep down, deep in my shanana, I could feel what she was saying was right because I had already started coming across some stuff, but I'm like, let me not jump to conclusions because look, I just got it. I'm still going through it, but I had already, you know how even before you get to the end of a thing, you just kind of like almost kind of feel it sometime, right? And I had already started having an inkling with what I was kind of looking at. You know, I'm just like, okay, you know, so but yeah, so I'm, you know, it's good reference, we got it, but you know, listen, well, I don't know if even, well, shucks, I'm sure, look, we got it already in here. They didn't just expound it on what she rewrote, so we probably reading her words anyway all the way through the different versions of Oahspe. They just got all the extra stuff that they've added along the years that they've come across, right? Expounding on stuff. But I'm interested. Listen, I am interested in still finding the John Lant plates simply because like I really want to lay my eyes on it because they said a lot of the it was in panic language, right? And they like they translated it into English. I would like to just look at it because I like to look at hieroglyphs and stuff, right? And I think it would just really be interesting. I think it really would. Listen, it would be interesting because I would like to see if the original manuscript is destroyed. So, okay, so if John Newbro originally with the panic language, knowing that, okay, so I found out a little bit of information about John Lant. John Lant wasn't just a printer. He started in a newspaper game, being an editor. So he was a really good editor, and he developed and he became a printer and had a print business. So even though he would not have, now I can't say now that I know he was an editor, right, and he was kind of hanging out here in the background a little bit with them. Like, it wasn't just my friend, I noticed a printer. Like, you were aware of some of the stuff that was already going on. Like, you were like a part of this crew here, So now I'm really wondering. I would like to see it in its original form, because doing the plates, doing his plates, that would have just been English letters. So to me, on John Newbro's manuscript, if it had panic language in there, John Lant would not have done like panic letters on his printing press, right? There are English letters. So it's interesting. And we may not ever see that, because even with John Lant's proof sheets from his plates that would have been pressed out, there would have been no indication of panic, anything, because it would have already been translated. So we wouldn't even be able to see that on the John Lance stuff, right? So I don't know. It's just all these different questions and everything is just coming up now. And I think about what my husband said, another clue. I'm on national treasure. Yeah, all truth. Malachi said, all truth starts within. Judge every book. Judge every book you read, unless they be right. Judge every book you read, least they become a snare to you, right? Yeah, ooh, this has been good. If I had this to do all over again, I really would, because I learned some stuff. Tickler, hey girl, hey. But yeah, this is really interesting. I can't believe we already at almost 2.5 hours. Oh my gosh. Look, okay, y'all, we need to go ahead and get out of here. That's good, Gloria. She said, I mean, that's what we're doing. Maybe we should ask the creator to guide us to the truth that is within us all. Hopefully that's everybody's prayer every day. I think this is a good part of the journey. I think it was needful. Let's set apart, say this part of the journey. I believe that, right? But it was good. I would do it all over, because I learned some stuff about myself, a little bit more about researching, digging into deeper details, paying attention to the things not being said but being insinuated that leads you to things. It's like coded stuff. It was really good. I enjoyed the experience. I'm gonna keep going though. I ain't gonna be like Nazarene is saying, it was a good ride while it lasted. I know, right? So where do we go from here? No. Listen, so we're gonna keep on with our original. Look, I ain't gonna call it before I ain't gonna say we got off, right? It's a part of the journey, because I originally planned to reread Oahspe after we did the first time, just reread through it again a second time to kind of catch some things we didn't catch the first time. So we're gonna continue with doing what we were doing, right? And so instead of reading from the so-called John Lant plates, which we know they need to call them John Newbro's daughter's rewritten version of what she thought was an Oahspe, we're gonna not read from that. And I know I didn't send it to everybody. Y'all requested it, but y'all got it for your reference, so you can kind of go through, take it as keep it as a souvenir for this part of our journey together. Right? Yeah. I do. Yeah, right. Ema, we need to see what they have in England. So I'm interested to hear back from my brethren and sister here in the UK on what they have there. They could have the same exact thing we have, but I don't know. Something could have been preserved that somebody has. I don't know if they're willing to share it. I don't know. I hope so. But that would be interesting to see if they have something a little more ancient than what we have. I'm sure somebody does. Somebody grandmother left it and somebody didn't get rid of it. Somebody's been a hoarder somewhere. They may not know they got it. It's probably in the box in somebody's attic or down in somebody's basement or something. some grandchild gonna go find it, right? Some grandchild gonna decide, let's go ahead and clean this out. Let's go through this. You know what? Instead of just putting everything on the trash, let's just go through it. Just make sure nothing valuable. See, I got faith that somebody's grandchild is gonna do that, right? And they're gonna be intrigued by it, right? And they're gonna come, Oahspe, what is this? They're gonna probably ain't never had heard of Oahspe before, and they're gonna start Googling, right? I've already got myself set up, my algorithms and everything for when you type in Oahspe, I begin to pop up, right? They're gonna find me, right? I set it up to be that way, right? And every day that I do a video with in hopes of bringing information that I'm searching for that I can't find, that it will find its way to me by me using some of my insight that I have with the algorithms and stuff that I'm learning how to make my own self searchable, my videos findable and stuff, right? So I think all we need, it'll come to us in time, right? I just want to make sure that the road is prepared. I've done everything from my end to make sure that it can flow smoothly right into my hands, right? All right, y'all. So with that being said today, if they got manuscripts early on, it's possible what they have. Hold on. If they got manuscripts early on, it's possible what they have us is not corrupted by homegirls' manuscripts. That's good. That's our fool's goal. Our say like that's gonna be our title today. Our fool's goal. All right, y'all. Look, yeah, that's it for today, right? That's it for today. Go ahead and get out of here. And when we come back tomorrow, we just gonna pick back up in Big Blue on page 95, down at the bottom, the Lord's third book, right? And we'll keep bringing in insights and stuff. Um, I'm gonna still be reading. I'm gonna still be reading through it and just kind of comparing. Um, and then like if I see something that really sticks out, I'll bring it up. But I still will. I'm gonna still kind of like go through it and just to look at some things and just to do some comparison. But now that we know that it's like not an original, like I want to adjust it just a little bit. All right, all right, y'all. So that's it for today. That was the what was the title of that? Everybody got the link. If you came in late, you don't know where we were reading from, all the way back up to the beginning of the chat, you will see the link. I posted in there. This is a link that Cosmine Cal gave to us last night. He actually read this, and um, um, I thought that it would be good to read here. Vanette said, "Why it's a lie." Clearly, I know that now, but it's a lot of the same. Pretty much all of that stuff that's in there is in here what we're reading. Just like I look at it like just like the Bible, right? Although everything in the Bible is not from the Creator, there are some things from the Creator that actually made it into the Bible. Although it's very little, it's very little. No, Bella, I'm still using it. Wait a minute. But this is just a part of my research, right? Just kind of going through things, doing my due diligence, being like the Bereans, right? I know the Bereans, we hear about them in the New Testament, but it's a part of diligent research and stuff, right? But now I know how to categorize it while I'm going through. Like I'm not keeping it like on the table per se, but Bella picked it up off the floor and gave it to me. It's gonna go in the maybe maybe not necessarily the shenanigan box, but a box need to be between the shenanigan and the trash can off the table. Let us know. Ooh, you do one more thing, you going in the trash. Maybe that need to be hovering above the trash can with lighters on both sides, letting it know, oh, you one step away before we light this lighter, right? This is that right there. All right, y'all. Look, live file. That's good. The live file hovering above the trash. I like that. It's a live file, and it's gonna hover right above the trash can for the time being until we actually just hit the button and open up the floor on that jank and let it go in. All right, y'all. So that's it for today. It is Wednesday, December the 28th. Hold on. Let me write this out before you take this on. Go away, little girl.
I was bringing it back.
You was bringing it back. I'm gonna put it in here so I don't forget. All right, y'all. Jim Denning. Okay. All right, y'all. It is Wednesday, December the 28th, 2022, day 300 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1319. Today, we just kind of read this letter by Jim Denning that they posted at that link that I shared with y'all. And it was a really, really, really good insight. Help us to adjust our search just a little bit. But we don't want to get stuck in the past either, like those who are constantly crying out, oh y'all, your Torah is burnt, give it to us and rewrite it. We don't really want to do that. We really do. We want to take all the lessons we've learned, take the insight, even the things that we can't even get a hold of. It could be for the best, right? And just kind of keep moving on. What's Creator saying now, right? Take the light that we have now and continue moving forward, progressing to get greater light, because Creator really could restore, right? And when he restores, he always makes it better. So what we get now will be greater than what they had anyway, right? So that's how I feel about it. So Father, we thank you for even greater and higher light in our research. We start off searching for one thing, but then we end up finding something so much better when we're led by you. So we thank you for that, for giving us better always, progressing us always. All right, y'all. I love y'all, and I will see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Be seen. Shalom, bro. All right, y'all. I see y'all. We out of here. Go ahead. You can end that one.
Close your eyes and do not cheat. Give me about 3 seconds. 1, 2, keep your eyes closed, don't cheat. And 3.